This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Do you take this woman as your lawful wedded wife?
Ooh, yeah! Oh, no.
Place the ring on her finger and repeat after me. With this ring, I thee wed.
Hello, and welcome to the 27th edition of With This Ring. I'm your co-host, Ryan Everett.
I'm your co-host, Cindy Everett.
And today we will be looking at the WCW career of not quite Stone Cold, stunning Steve Austin.
Steve, yes.
So, going into this, what did you know about Steve Austin? Like, even if you could put yourself in the before we even started the WCW watch. What did you know of him?
Well, we watched some of his matches for WWE, or you mean before?
No, like, that would be fine.
I knew I feel like when we really watched, like, the height of the frenzy when he was in WWE, it was, like, 97?
97, 98.
Yeah, 98. Yeah. I honestly didn't know he was in WCW.
Right.
Until we started this, but he must have shot up pretty quickly in WWE, because I feel like by the mid-late 90s, he was the man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know he has some podcasts, basically, to say.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't know anything about his WCW career.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because
it's longer than I thought. The more I think about it, it's like
it's almost as long as he was in WWF. Really?
Huh? Yeah.
I mean, he was in WCW for 4 years, and he was in WWF for 6 years. But one of those years, he was out the whole year with neck surgery. So basically, the actual in-ring time.
Yeah, his legacy is so large. Then he's had so many just kind of in-ring appearances since he's.
Yeah, I mean, he still shows up. I mean, I think he showed up like one of the first quarantine Raws and stuff. Of course. So he's still, a big guy, a big name to bring out.
But yeah, I didn't know that he was Stunning Steve.
Yeah.
So he started WCW.
Yeah, so Stunning Steve, he started wrestling in 1989 in Dallas, and 2 years later he was picked up by WCW, and we watched what is actually his 4th match with the company.
Oh, wow.
And in it, he beats Bobby Eaton to become television champion. So we'll talk later about how he felt he was held down and stuff. But
wait, really?
Yeah, but it's obvious when he came in, they had big plans for him.
Definitely.
Right away, within 4 matches, he's winning the TV title.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
He thinks he was held back?
Well, eventually.
Okay, all right.
Later on.
Okay, sounds like we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get there. You can't tell the Steve Austin story without some Eric Bischoff shenanigans.
Of course. So he's from Texas, but why did he go the Hollywood angle?
He's not sure of that. He just knows that before his first match in WCW, he was warming up, and the announcer for some reason said from Hollywood, California.
Huh.
Stunning Steve Austin. So I guess like they were kind of going off Stunning Steve being like a movie star kind of thing. Okay. Maybe that's the best I could kind of.
Yeah, I mean WCW doesn't have the best logic for
right.
That, so.
Yeah, and I mean if you've heard Steve Austin talk, like even in his normal voice, he does not sound like someone from California.
No.
Yeah.
He sounds like somebody from Texas.
Yes, from deep in Texas.
What part of Texas is he
from? Victoria, Texas.
Oh, that's right. We've talked about that.
It's basically like near Austin, it seems like. So then, so our first match we watched, like we said, was him versus Bobby Eaton. Mm-hmm. And it is on the Power Hour on June 29th, 1991. And Steve Austin wins when his new manager, Lady Blossom. Yes. Not just Blossom, Lady Blossom.
Yeah, she did some shenanigans.
She rakes Bobby Eaton's eyes, and then Steve Austin just sort of rolls them up for the win.
Yeah, what I said, evenly matched, similar build and similar hairstyle. This is back when they both had very large mullets.
Yes.
very much the day of the night. Talk about the evolution of hairstyles. Well, though, to be fair, that happened more. When did he shave his head? Because he still had hair.
Yeah, in '90, when he first came into WWF, he had like the crew cut.
Yeah.
And then like 2 weeks after that, like he debuted like the shaved head with the goatee, and he decided to stick with that for the next 20 years, 25 years.
That worked. Good
yep.
For him. So, but no, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evenly matched. So I didn't realize this was his 4th match ever.
Yeah, he's shot up pretty quickly.
Yeah, looks like it. Definitely. But no, you know, I feel like we didn't really watch a lot of promos. Sorry, quick aside.
Yeah, because he really doesn't. We'll talk about one of them in a minute, like that could kind of tie into his run that we didn't watch this time, but we've watched before. Okay. So I'll remind you about that. But that's the thing with him. He, like, even here, he is Lady Blossom first.
Yeah,
and then,
that's true.
then right away in November, to show, again, how much they had faith in him, he's drafted into the Dangerous Alliance with Paulie as his manager there. Yeah. And even after that, he goes with the Hollywood Blondes. Mm-hmm. And then right after he gets out of them, he has Colonel Robert Parker as his... So he almost always had a manager.
That's true.
Outside of when he was with the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like they never really trusted him to be able to do interviews.
Really?
Yeah.
He's pretty articulate.
Yeah. Well, yes. And obviously, eventually, he proved himself to be one of the best.
That's true.
Promos ever.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's kind of a...
Saying he's articulate is a little bit of an understatement.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, yeah, no, that was good. Solid match.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. It's kind of... It's just... You wonder what, if they had it in 2 years, it would have been, because Steve Austin is still just a rookie at this point.
That's
true.
He's
very green, and he's kind of... Because he was so big at that point, he's kind of doing more like a powerhouse style thing. Which,
yeah, he's big. He was never like super juiced though.
No. I think it was just, this was probably just him at his thickest.
Right.
Like 260 pounds just straight. Where as his career evolved, he kind of slimmed down a little.
He
bit.
did.
He was never small, but he was never
like super jacked.
No. I mean, he always had just the
bear bod. Yeah, a little bit of dad bod.
Early adopter of the dad bod style.
Yeah.
So next we go to January of '92, and it's the Clash of the Champions, and again already he's in the main event of a big time show as Rick Rude's partner.
Yeah,
they're part of the Dangerous Alliance.
Of Rick Rude.
Yes. Rick Rude does not have a dad bod.
His abs are too much for me.
Against the super babyface team of Sting and Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, that's true. You don't get more face.
No.
Than those two. I like watching Ricky Steamboat and Steve fight because they're fast. This one they're meshing. There's another one of their matches that we watched that 1994 that did not really mesh well.
Yeah.
This one I thought worked really well together. They, fast paced. Their moves were all really well executed, really clean. And not quite to like the choreography as like the Ricky Steamboat Macho Man match, but they definitely had a certain like rhythm and cadence.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of could see what they were doing, like
what
the combinations they were
feed
executing.
off each other. Yeah. I agree.
But in a good way. Yeah,
and I think they had a really good chemistry. And it's kind of weird here because Sting had just feuded with Rick, like it just lost his U.S. title to Rick Rude, and was kind of gearing up to feud with Lex Luger for the world title. And Ricky Steamboat was starting to feud with Rick Rude. So Steve Austin's kind of like just the extra guy in this.
Gotcha.
Like he doesn't really have... I mean, he has an issue with Sting and Ricky Steamboat because all the babyfaces hated the Dangerous Alliance, but like personally, he wasn't involved in either one.
Yeah. Oh, you should tell people what you're drinking right now.
Oh, yeah. In honor of this...
Oh, sure. You're going to drink it anyways.
Yeah. But I am drinking the last of my, unfortunately... my El Segundo Steve Austin Broken Skull IPAs, which I'm only able to get from South Bend, Indiana.
Yep.
Via Bear Trades.
Somewhere we can get them closer to the Chicago
area.
area.
I don't know why El Segundo
skips
Illinois. It's kind of a big populated city in it, at least.
No, South Bend.
No, obviously.
Is there a place between here and South Bend?
No, I've looked on Untapped and...
Yeah, I'm sure you looked at
this. There was one bar in like be Munster, but it was like just on tap and stuff. So I'm not gonna drive 45 minutes for
bring an empty growler and
fill
fill
this.
this up for me, please. Okay. Sorry, we digress, but very good beer.
Yeah. Oh yes, very good. One of the better celebrity collaborations I've had.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, sorry. So he was just like the fourth guy.
Yeah, he was just like, we need someone else to team with Rick Rude from his group. And
Who was in the Dangerous Alliance again?
it was Steve Austin, Rick Rude, Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson. They were like the tag team champs.
Okay.
Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson. And then Larry Zbyszko was also there.
So Arn Anderson kind of went back and forth between the Dangerous Alliance and the...
Yeah, I mean, he was always, whatever the heel du jour group was at the time, he was...
Like your heel for hire.
He was the enforcer for every group that he was in.
Good for it, I guess.
And then it should be, we didn't watch it here, but the 1992 War Games match, which is Sting Squadron against the Dangerous Alliance, and Steve Austin starts that match.
I thought we did watch that.
We did, like, a while ago, I'm just saying.
I vaguely remember it.
So, like, I have that as my number one WCW match. So, and I think it's hard with matches like those to say, like, oh, well, you know, Dustin Rhodes was in it, and it's a 5-star match, so he has a 5-star match. But I think a match like that, you could probably pick, like, 3 guys that are key to it. And this, it's probably, like, Sting, Ricky Steamboat, and definitely Steve Austin. Because he's in the whole time.
Yeah, Rick Rude doesn't do much in this.
No, Rick Rude was... I think they kind of had him in as the last guy, being like, oh, he's the heavy hitter who will close it up. And Sting's climbing up and down up the cage to try and get to Medusa, who's throwing cell phones into the ring.
That's right.
A lot of shenanigans with Stinger.
Yeah, Rick Rude's not very impressive in this match.
Yeah, he's kind of...
Not really impressive in general.
He gets into a groove in, like, 1992, but then he kind of falls off and gets injured in 93, and from there it's kind of hard to get it back. So then, though, eventually the Dangerous Alliance ends, and Steve Austin's just kind of floundering as just random mid-card heel, and teams with newly turned heel Brian Pillman.
Yes. Did you know he played in the NFL?
No, I never. They never mentioned that. So eventually they feud with Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas and get the tag titles from them and say that they won't give them a rematch. So then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later on WCW Saturday Night, they have some match against Dos Hombres, the luchador team from Mexico that no one knows about.
Right.
That shockingly have body types very similar to Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas.
That's right.
And the Dos Hombres beat the Hollywood Blondes in a non-title match. And then the next week, Steve Austin is going against one of the Dos Hombres, and Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas come out.
Oh, what?
So what? So then he loses by count out or something, something along those lines for the feud. And then they get to the cage match, and in the actual weeks leading up to the cage match, Shane Douglas had a real life contract dispute with WCW.
Oh, really?
So he's not even actually in this match.
Oh.
But the announcers make it seem like it is Shane Douglas and Ricky Steamboat.
Weird.
Yes. So it's actually Tom Zink.
Oh.
A guy we saw get murdered by Vader at one point.
Oh, yeah.
So he's not really a big star, but it's kind of odd that they make it out to be Shane Douglas when it's not Shane Douglas.
Yeah. Did he get cut or something? So they went.
Yeah, I think they had a contract dispute, and they both kind of were like, "Screw you" to each other, but they already had this match booked.
Whoops.
But at the same time, they could just be like, "Well, it's under a mask, so who knows?"
Yeah, it could be anybody. Could be Shane Douglas.
Could
know that. Maybe it was.
I mean, he grew 3 inches and got black hair instead of blonde hair, but whatever.
You can dye your hair.
So, but the Hollywood Blondes meet the Dos Hombres in a steel cage match for the tag titles at SLAMBOREE.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of that?
It was good. And Ricky Steamboat went off the top. That was actually very impressive. We're not going to do Ricky Steamboat.
No.
Well, I think I've mentioned this. We've gone through most of
his stuff. Almost in every
he really is.
month there's someone with a
so
Ricky Steamboat match.
Yes. Steamboat month.
Ricky Steamboat month never ends.
There we go. 2021. I hope 2022 brings more.
More Ricky Steamboats?
Yeah. Yeah, tangential. But, no, this is good. What was I right? Good match, fast-paced. The Hollywood Blondes win, despite, I guess, usually when you get the big move, though, don't you win?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I guess
it's,
maybe not.
especially something like this, a tag match, it's easy to make it seem like he hit it, but one of the guys wasn't hit as much, so he's able to recover. And yeah, so I mean, and it was, at this point, it was the Hollywood Blondes were the team they were going to go on.
Gotcha.
And then...
That's true with Tom's egg slash.
Yeah, especially with it not being the real Shane Douglas. Like, because Steamboat takes off the mask right before he jumps off the cage to show it's him, so they can't really have them win then and not have
Good point, yeah.
Tom Zank, Shane Douglas unmasked, because it'd be weird. But they were, I think, committed to the Hollywood, even if it was Shane Douglas. I think this is the ending they would have gone with, because shortly before this, the Hollywood Blondes started a feud with the Four Horsemen.
Oh.
As you'll remember on the Flair for the Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Hollywood Blondes are there, and
That's
Steve
right.
Austin and Brian Pillman start making fun of them for how old they are. And Steve Austin
That's a good promo.
tells yeah, exactly. That's what
Yeah,
he tells Ric Flair how much he admires the statue he has on the stage, and they show Arn Anderson looking back and forth, and Brian Pillman's like, Steve, that's double A. So, yeah, making fun of how old they are, and that is really, like, it's a promo that Steve Austin cuts, and he's really, like, I think they always thought Brian Pillman's the better promo guy for the Hollywood Blondes, and I think he was really good, but I think, like, for some reason they just didn't trust Steve Austin at all to give promos, which is weird, because the kind of promo he cuts here is kind of what he started doing in 1996 when he was not getting a lot of time in WWF, but the little bits he'd get, he'd make it memorable and would get talked about. So it's kind of like he always had that promo style in him.
And then everyone bought an Austin 316.
Yeah, exactly. He just needed to blaspheme once. And
when did he say that? Sorry, quick aside.
June 1996.
What did he say?
So he won the King of the Ring tournament, and he beat Jake Roberts in the final. And Jake Roberts had just come back to WWF and was doing like this born again Christian thing, like saying that's how he beat all of his demons of alcohol, and he didn't. He was still getting high all the time.
Oh, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, but a lot of the times I think with like reclamation stories like that, I think that's usually how they end. But anyways, so after he beats Jake Roberts, he's given a promo about how like Jake Roberts used to mean something, but now he can't. He's all washed up. He should get a cheap bottle of Thunderbird and try to dig up some of the courage he had in his old days. Oof. And then he says, like, you talk about your Psalms and your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. And then, but then
every kid in middle school.
Well, see, that's kind of like, well, I liked it then, yeah, because he just swore, but it's kind of like revisionist history by WWF now, where like, the next night, there were signs all over the place, and we started making the shirt. Like, for 3 months afterwards, they didn't capitalize it on anything, and he was barely pushed. Like, at SummerSlam that year, he wasn't even on the main card. He fought on the preview show match. Yeah, well. So it wasn't like he hit that and exit right away. The thing that got him over was eventually Bret Hart was coming back and wanted to feud with him. So that's when he started becoming like.
Did he say it again then, or if you just remember?
Well, he said it all the time then. Like everything would be like Austin 3:16. Gotcha. Like for a little while, he kind of played it up like in the Book of Austin. The next chapter is ... Gotcha.
All right.
So yeah, no, that's a important aside that because you can't talk about stunning Steve Austin without getting into Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think.
Yeah. Changes his adjectives.
Yes. So then next thing we saw was, unfortunately, eventually the Hollywood Blondes come to an end.
Like they all do.
They all do, unfortunately. And so that of course, you have to have a blow-off match. Yep. And you have Steve Austin versus Brian Pillman at Clash of the Champions 25 in November of 1993. And what did you think of?
I said lots of big moves.
Yep.
Very fast-paced. The crowd loved it.
Yeah, crowd was definitely into it.
And Steve Austin wins, and they keep fighting after the bell.
Right,
That's always good.
So this feud must continue.
Oh, yes. How did they start the feud? What was their?
It was
reason?
kind of like they didn't have like. Well, they had the weird thing where they lost the titles, but Brian Pillman was injured, so it had to be Steven Regal defending it because that's the whole thing with the Disney tapings. We've gone over it before, but
that's right.
So, and then they kind of Brian Pillman wasn't out that long. It was only out like 4 weeks. So they came back and they were teaming again, but then like there'd be points where they'd have like, points of, they'd mess up a spot with each other, and they'd still win a match against like a jobber team, but they'd have moments of distrust with each other. And then all of a sudden, Steve Austin has Colonel Robert Parker as his manager for his singles career, and actually wins gets a U.S. title shot. And Brian Pillman's like, "Hey, what happened?"
Gotcha.
And then Austin eventually turns on him, and the feud is born.
Yeah, we haven't really done a deep down Robert Parker.
Yeah, he's kind of an
around.
Interesting guy. He's there a lot. In '93 they made him like a big time guy. He's more the manager of the Sid Vader team than Harley Race, and
that's true.
I think he hires Cheatham the Evil Midget to blow up the boat. It's
not.
We don't actually see the exchange, but I would put it more on Colonel Robert Parker than Harley Race. Harley Race doesn't have time for that shit.
He doesn't really.
He's smoking a cigar and drinking whiskey. He doesn't have time to hire midgets to plant bombs. I'm sure. Now, fram!
That's a promo.
Yes. Now, if poor Cheatham, if he ever worked a match, I mean, I don't know how his work rate was, but his promo, his nuances are off the page.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was good.
Yes. So, unfortunately, we come to the end of the Hollywood Blondes, but we're not quite done with them in a match. But first, we'll take a quick break and come back. All right, real quick before we keep going, want to tell you about some of the great things on the Place to Be Nation. Please rate, review, and subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Just search Place to Be Wrestling Network. We have plenty of great content for you here at the Place to Be. The Place to Be podcast, the mothership of the Place to Be Nation, where co-hosts JT Rosero and Scott Criscolo take you chronologically through the history of WWE.
PTB and Main Event with hosts Scott Criscolo, Nate Milton, and Steve Will, breaking down all the current events in the world of wrestling.
Talking WCW heads to Center Stage Theater, where Tim Capel, Greg Phillips, Jennifer Smith pay tribute to the legendary promotion from the Dirty South.
Do we do a promo for our own show?
No, we can skip that one.
Highway to the Impact Zone, where Logan Crossland and Jacob Williams discuss the era of TNA, starting with the birth of the Impact TV show.
The NWA Saturday Special, where Scott Criscolo and George Dr. G. Ribello talk both current and classic National Wrestling Alliance.
Plus monthly WWE PPV reaction shows and semi-regular shows like Jenny and the Gems, PTB NXT, Adams Division, Special Relations, Chicken Salad, Senior Video, NWA Crock and Roll, Extreme Resurrection, and more.
Yep. And also, make sure to listen to our Quad of Pods. We have the PTB Pop Experience. It's all about pop culture. We have the best in TV, movies, comics, trivia shows, and much more.
Jennifer Smith is always in the Jenny position with her unique takes on pop culture and life. Her feed is loaded with great shows ranging from movies, books, Marvel, and more. If you are interested in doing a pop culture podcast, Jenny wants to talk to you. Reach out to her on Twitter at Jenny Position to learn more.
Also, make sure to join JT Rosero, Aaron George, and Chad Campbell for great shows on wrestling, comics, and more with the North-South Connection feed. Check out the histories of WWE, TNA, and other great wrestling topics and takes.
Also, Glenn and Scott Butler are continuing their spectacular journey through music, films, and more on the Non-Toxic Fanboys podcast, where they try to enjoy the things they love. Find them at Non-Toxic Fanboys on Twitter, nontoxicfanboys.com, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And make sure to join the rejuvenated Place to Be discussion group on Facebook. Go to Facebook, look up Place to Be, and request an invite. Discussions and fun with wrestling, movies, tournaments, and all forms of pop culture.
Our 2021 stretch project is determining the greatest NWA/WCW wrestler of all time. Go to facebook.com/GWCW and join the group to discuss nominees.
And make sure to check out placetobenation.com each and every day. We have new voices and fresh takes, bringing you articles on topics in the world of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent's SmackDown on Fox Report, Paulie's Perspective, and Matt's Disney live-action journey.
And if you're doing some online shopping from Amazon, be sure to click the banner on the right side of the Place to Be Nation homepage or use www.placetobenation.com/Amazon, and it takes you right to Amazon and helps out PTBN with no cost to you.
Yep. All right, let's go back to the show. And as we come back from the break, just a quick reminder, as you listen to this, it is December 28th, and the GWCW Greatest Wrestler Ever poll will close this Friday at, I believe, midnight or 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're listening, if you're listening from Chicago, you gotta do the, you know how we're disrespected on New Year's Eve with the Conan O'Brien episodes of yesteryear. But yeah, so get those polls in, and if you're thinking last moment, where should Steve Austin go? Hopefully, this will help you.
Yeah.
So as we go into 1994, which is a very busy, packed year for Steve Austin.
This is when he hurt his knee, right?
It's 94. No, that's 95 he gets injured.
Oh, okay.
He looks like he blows out his leg here in this match.
Oh, yeah,
so
true. Yeah.
The match we're talking about is the THUNDERCAGE match from SUPERBRAWL 4, 1994. It's Rick Rude, Paul Orndorff, and Steve Austin versus Brian Pillman, Sting, and Dustin Rhodes. So it's nice to see that, even though the Dangerous Alliance is falling apart, that Steve Austin and Rick Rude are still working against the greater good.
And this was the THUNDERCAGE was a little bit of a bizarre setup.
Yeah, so
right?
it's a cage that goes around the ring, so it's kind of like a Hell in a Cell, but it's like the big black bars on the cage. It's not like the steel mesh fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty wide perimeter.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can push people up against the cage.
Right.
And rake them across the chicken wire. It's well outside the perimeter.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think in this match, again, with 6-man matches, it's hard to say who does the most, but I think definitely Steve Austin is.
Paul Orndorff did do it.
Yeah, Paul Orndorff. Yeah, both the two other heels are kind of just seem like they're there for the paycheck.
Right.
And Steve Austin is like, well, no, I'm getting a semi-main event match. I'm going to make the most out of it.
Right. Was Paul Orndorff, I never heard of him.
He was big in the 80s.
So he looked a little older.
Yeah, because his big thing was in 1986. He was the first Hulk Hogan best friend turns on him and feuds with him story. So him and Hulk Hogan had a huge feud in the 80s. Mid 86 to early 87. And just kept feuding over the world title. So that kind of cemented him always as a guy, at least.
Gotcha.
They wouldn't, even if he's in WCW and Hulk Hogan isn't there, they'd be like, oh, he's headline shows against some of the greatest world champions ever and stuff.
Gotcha. Whatever that could be.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Obviously, it's Vader.
Yeah, well, you wish.
But no, they do, it kind of, for the first 5 minutes, it seems like they don't really realize they have a cage and
that's not
they
really
can
utilized.
go at it with each other. But then I think towards the end it kind of picks up and is it Dustin Rhodes who bleeds?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Rhodes in a cage match, so he's contractually obligated to bleed.
Yeah, it's his family tradition.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I must have been tired. I didn't have a lot of notes.
Yeah, and it ends with Brian Pillman pinning Steve Austin, so that kind of brings the end to the feud. Although by this point, Steve Austin was the U.S. champ, so it wasn't like, yeah, Brian Pillman pinned him, but never wins the U.S. title from him. So.
Gotcha.
And then from there, next we went to Steve Austin versus Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, this is the one where they weren't really like synced up.
Yeah,
Or,
this
like,
is. I'm surprised. Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, I
I'm
like-
learning a lot.
I like it. No, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, you like this one?
Yeah, it is.
I don't dislike it.
I think
just feel like they
we
don't...
watched their Clash of the Champions match, which is later, like after this chronologically, and I think that's a better match.
Yeah. No, I just said they're both talented, but they just don't seem synced up. Like a lot of like, their combinations weren't as clean.
Yeah, I think this was one where like it seems like they had a 15-minute match and they were told to go 20.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
they
I
had
can
to
see
stretch
that,
some
yeah.
things out. It seems like, and
Like it's not as like tight as the 1992 match.
right, yeah, I would agree with that.
That's a good point because there's a lot of 2 counts in a row.
Yeah.
that could warrant that they had some more.
And like,
airtime.
yeah, and like a headlock might go a minute here, where earlier versions of the match they were just going to do it for 15 seconds.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it kind of slows things down.
And they did a lot of back walkover gymnastics moves at the end of this.
Yes.
I really liked.
Yes, and at the
They're
end,
very flexible. I mean, if that do
Yeah.
a back bend like that, oof, then hold somebody that's
that
over
you're on your
200
neck,
pounds.
yeah.
Oy, oy, oy.
So at the end, Steve Austin kind of rolls through a Ricky Steamboat body press and holds the tights to get the win. And then, like I said before, we watched their Clash of the Champions match where Ricky Steamboat actually wins, but during the match, or right after the match in a rematch they had, he injures his back
Okay.
to the point where he thought he had to retire.
Ooh.
He would come back 15 years later at WrestleMania, but he
doesn't really
essentially
count. Yeah, he's
was
done.
retired.
Mhm.
And they decide to. It was supposed to be Steve Austin versus Ricky Steamboat one last time at Fall Brawl. So
Oh,
they
that's
award
right.
the U.S. title to Steve Austin since
Yep.
he can't compete. And then they bring out
What? Yeah,
Hacksaw Jim Duggan making his WCW debut.
That was his debut.
I'm pretty sure. Let me make sure.
Really? Yeah, I guess people didn't really react to him. Like this bozo.
I mean, even if you weren't a WWF fan, you would know who. Oh no, I guess he had come up a little before. Well, this was after the show. It looks like that might have been his TV debut. Yeah, Duggan's surprise TV debut. So he had been
Oh.
wrestling a little bit on house shows and stuff,
Gotcha.
but this was his big, coming
Gotcha.
out moment.
Gotcha.
And like people don't. Most of the people there, especially because this was after Hogan had just arrived,
Okay.
so he's bringing in all his WWF buddies,
Gotcha.
and he's also bringing in a lot of WWF fans. So, and even if you don't know,
people knew of him.
people knew of him, and even if you don't know him, he's a big fat slob, putting his thumbs up, yelling "Ho" and USA,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
things that are very easy to chant along with. So,
True.
so he comes out and beats Steve Austin in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, that wasn't like a match. It was just like
Right, but this
Yeah.
was kind of, as I said, the beginning of the end of Steve Austin in WCW because,
Yeah, so this is where he got held down.
yes, so pretty
Okay.
quickly he finds out that he is, like, it's clear that from right now on, there's, like, the level you can get to, and there's the level above it, which is Hulk Hogan and friends.
Okay.
And he is not a Hulk Hogan friend.
No.
So he's,
Do they like not like each other personally, or just different style?
I think
Not
at the
like-
time,
yeah.
Hulk Hogan just didn't see him as anything like,
Oh,
like if
gotcha.
he's not going to rise to the level where I could feud with him and make
Oh,
money.
Okay.
I don't want him even being like the U.S. champ because it's like technically the U.S. champ is always the number one contender.
Gotcha.
It never really happens that way, but
But yeah, he's like Hogan doesn't think he can like level up. Essentially.
right, he's thinking like this guy's not at my level, never going to be there.
Huh.
Yeah, but so eventually though he feuds with Hacksaw Jim Duggan for a
Oh
while.
God, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it was. And they'd have like 17, 20-minute matches,
Ugh.
which is not good for any Jim Duggan era,
No.
especially 94.
No.
But then, it's weird because he loses, Hacksaw Jim Duggan loses the U.S. title to Vader
Okay.
to set up Vader for his feud with Hulk Hogan. And then Vader attacks a WCW referee or something and has to forfeit the U.S. title. So it kind of means the whole Jim Duggan U.S. title reign was like pointless, and there was no point really taking it off Steve Austin, really.
There's no point in the hex of Jim Duggan.
Yeah, well, I think that was kind of like a Hulk Hogan likes me, so I'm gonna get pushed. And then, so in '94, there was shortly after the. So remember the Ric Flair Hulk Hogan cage match, where Ric Flair retires.
Oh, well, he retired a lot.
Yeah, so it kind of loses its luster after a while. But so he loses that, and then there was a thing like for weeks, who is Sherry going to manage next? And they actually taped matches with Steve Austin with her as his manager, which shows they still had something planned for him, because they're not going to put the lady who was just managing the world champ, with like a no-name guy. Yeah. But then they never aired those matches, and instead she went with Harlem Heat. Because they thought it'd be good to have a white woman with two black guys, because O.J. Simpson was occurring at the time. Oh, gosh. So, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
So, he's just kind of floundering for a while.
Yeah, so he's kind of like...
And all of a sudden, he comes back with Colonel Robert Parker, who's just kind of there again. But then he gets a 20-minute match with Sting on the weekly show, and...
It's good.
It's really good. I think it's the best Austin Sting match that they had, like, because it's kind of tough because they had a lot in '92, like usually as part of different teams,
right? Yeah,
but they were at different levels then, because that's when Steve Austin was like still up and coming, and now he's kind of like on the decline, but he's able to get a good match out of Sting still.
I mean, on the decline, it's still young and
yeah. I mean, just on the decline and
the
view of the company, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Sting. Well, I guess then it's no surprise that Sting wins, right?
Right. Yeah.
Kind of not edging him out, but they're not really investing in him anymore.
So, and they keep talking during this about a U.S. title tournament and how this will affect the brackets because they're both top contenders. Sure. So, depending on who wins, it could affect the brackets, and eventually it does because Steve Austin, his first round match for the U.S. title, he beats Jim Duggan. He gets his white whale finally.
There you go.
Of beating 40-year-old Jim Duggan, or however old he was then. Yeah. Not to, Hacksaw Jim Duggan recently just beat cancer for like the third time, so good for him. No reflection on his personal life, just as a wrestler by 1994 he was done. And so then, in his second round match, he loses in what sounds like it should be a classic. We didn't watch it, though, because, for one thing, it's only 2 minutes and 45 seconds long. Second round of the U.S. title tournament, Steve Austin versus Randy Savage.
Aww.
Which sounds like it should be the greatest match of all time, but unfortunately, like I said, it's under 3 minutes, and it's...
What happened?
It's very early WCW Randy Savage match, where he gets beat up by the heel for, like, two and a half minutes, 3 minutes. Then he, like, misses... They, like, miss a charge into the corner, hits a body slam, goes up, flying elbow, match over.
Gotcha.
So, it's pretty clear then that they have no plans for Steve Austin. He is just a guy.
Right.
And then he goes into... So, WCW sends him on a tour of Japan. And while he's there, he tears his tricep.
Ooh.
So, he doesn't wrestle for... He can't wrestle for, I think, like 7 or 8 months.
Oh, wow.
And this is where there's two different stories. Although actually when he had Eric Bischoff on his podcast, Steve Austin kind of admits that he, like, Eric Bischoff had his, because Steve Austin lived in Atlanta at the time, or like a suburb of Atlanta, because
nobody lives in Atlanta.
Right. But like, it made sense for, if you were in WCW at the time, to live there, because the Saturday night taping was always downtown Atlanta, so Eric Bischoff's secretary called him up Steve Austin while he was injured, but they wanted him to come to the show and do like promos or something to kind of keep him fresh. And Steve Austin's wife answered, and she like says, "Oh, hold on, let me go get him." And then someone in the background, you hear Steve Austin say, "Tell him I'm not fucking here."
Yikes.
So the wife said that, and then Eric Bischoff heard that Steve Austin was dodging the call, so he FedExed him his resignation
Oh,
letter, or
wow.
his "you're fired" letter.
All right.
And that brings to a close stunning Steve Austin.
Well, sometimes you have to get fired to get hired, I
Yeah,
guess.
well, he would actually go to ECW first
Did
for
not
a
know
couple
that.
of months, and he is superstar Steve Austin,
Okay. So
coming out to the music of
Jesus Christ Superstar?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I got that right.
It's so good. It's the only thing is you can't watch it on the network.
Because
You could watch it. It's awesome. It's so.
Did he have the Jesus Christ start?
Yeah, it's just the orchestra,
Oh,
like the musical part, and it's so fitting because 1995 Steve Austin in ECW is just he's like 1,000 times better looking than everyone. Like, I mean, the Sandman, who is like about his size but like just fat, and his gimmick was he was a beer drinking, cigarette smoking guy with a cane. So there's a little bit of
the part.
He lifted part of that, but it's also like Steve Austin is just like this athletic marvel, and here's this guy.
I will have to watch that after we finish recording.
Yes, we might have to see.
Music.
Yes. So, and then after a very short layover in ECW, he's hired by WWE, and kind of flounders a little bit at the start, but by the next year, like the end of 1996, he's ready to become the biggest star in wrestling.
Yeah. No, the rest is history.
Yeah.
And he's not too problematic. He's just
he had a thing like in 2002 he quit the WWF and had a thing where he beat his wife, was arrested, but it was obvious that, I mean, obviously it's no excuse, but he had a very serious like drinking problem at this time. It was pretty obvious he needed some.
Did he go to rehab?
Yeah, and since then he's never had. I think. Oh. Yeah, I don't think he's had anything since then. Not even like a DUI or something, which is something you might expect a guy who's gimmick since 2000 or since 1998 is beer drinking guy who kicks ass.
Right. No, yeah, I mean, we're just doing a stunning Steve.
Yes, this is only stunning Steve now. We should stuff this. Yes.
Steve. Not superstar Steve.
No, not superstar Steve Austin.
We can't judge any ECW
No,
appearances on that.
none of his superstar.
Okay, this is gonna be tough then, because the only real promo is the
yeah.
That one.
Yeah, so promos are tough, I would say.
Ask Stunning Steve. Yeah, what are my scores? He's like middling. I'll give him an 8.
An 8 for mid? You're saying middling an 8?
Sorry, well, no, middling of my rankings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go like 7. That's where I've got Sting, Vader.
Yeah.
I think he's about there. Maybe 7.5 because he had it, and the few times he's able to show it, he does, but it's not enough to really count.
Yeah. You give Arn Anderson a 9.5 jump up factor?
Yeah, because of all the Four Horsemen stuff.
Okay. For jump up factor for Stunning Steve.
Stunning Steve.
He can get people like amped up. But like, yeah, it was kind of like a weird.
And he was never
genesis.
a main event.
Right.
Is I think like a main,
I'll do 8.5.
Okay, I'll go 8. Because I think like he's always in. Like most of the time, his match is one of the best matches on the card. But a lot of the times, it might be a mid card match that, in the grand scheme of things, is good but doesn't really. So nuance. So this is heel face, which isn't really a factor here.
Yeah, he's
never a face, but it also is like singles and tag wrestling, and like longevity. Which I mean, he has 4 years, which isn't really that bad. I mean, there's other guys that have a lot longer, but for 4 years, and he wasn't never like real. I mean, outside of like the end of '94 till the end of his run, he's always involved in big time stories, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling this one, dog. I feel like 7.5. That's
7.5.
Leave that for now. I might change it.
Trying to see, like, Yeah, I'm gonna go with 7.5 because I have Brian Pillman at 8, and I think they're two good guys to
Kind of like
bounce off each other. And like, he doesn't have as much as Brian Pillman because he wasn't a face for 2 years beforehand. I think.
Right.
Now work rate.
Really high. I'll do a 9.5.
Oh wow.
Yeah, sure. Feeling very generous.
Yeah,
Usually
you're in
really
the
hard grader.
Yeah, you're in the holiday spirit, I guess. Still.
Like Boxing Day.
Yeah, Boxing Day. I'm gonna go 8.5. I do think he's very good, but I'm kind of stingy on work rate. It looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the highest I've given has been 8.5, and that was Cactus Jack and Vader. So yeah, I'm.
Yeah, okay. Then I think he's comparable, if not better wrestler than them. Okay.
So some
Equal sign.
some.
S-U-M. The enter. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you have him at a 33.5.
Wow, that's my. Oh no, wait.
31.5.
Oh, I gave Cactus Jack a 34.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stand by that.
Yeah, I think I'd have. Out of these guys, I think I would go. By the numbers, I have Vader over Sting, but I think I might have Sting as my number 2 guy total. Just because he's so WCW.
Yeah, I think Sting are pretty low. Well, yeah, because it's all relative. But, yeah, no, we had some good matches.
So we're wildly... Or no, we're not. Never mind. I was looking at Cactus Jack and... Yeah. Brian Pillman were... Yeah.
On the lower end.
Yes.
Dusty Rhodes, Brian Pillman, I think Lux Luger on the lower end.
Yeah, those are the two lowest. But I think that...
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes, I'm going to put him higher than... he grades out just
Gotcha.
because he has... I think he has to
that,
be...
intangible.
Yeah, when we did the greatest WWE one, I put Bruno Sammartino at number 5, and grade-wise, he would not be there, but
right.
Just legacy alone.
Exactly, yeah.
He's got to be.
On the institution.
Right.
Right.
So I think, yeah. So, like I said, make sure you get your list in, and I will spoil it, I think, for the 3rd time, that my number 1 is the man we will be looking at next. The man who is, I think, most associated with WCW.
Yeah.
The troublesome Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
I think it's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's...
I'm more curious who's going to come in second.
Yeah, I think there's a couple
Sting, I could see
Sting.
Mick Foley.
I don't think he'd get that high. Ricky Steamboat, I could see getting up there. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right, well, let's hear so much more Ricky Steamboat in the new year.
Yep. Yeah, make 2022 a Ricky Steamboat type of year. Come back after 16 years.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure how to interpret that.
Yeah.
Well, wait, never mind.
We need a babyface comeback.
We need yes. This decade desperately needs a babyface comeback. All right. Look at the year of Ricky Steamboat.
Yep. The year of the dragon, hopefully.
Is it what is the Chinese New Year?
I don't.
Oh, wouldn't that be great if it was?
2022 is the year of
Ricky Steamboat.
Year of. Oh, it looks like it's the year of the tiger. I don't know if that's good or bad, but.
So this is Brian Pillman because he played for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Bengals, yes, Tigers.
All right, I got.
There's no tiger for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
It was a gunner on their punt team. So yes, next week we will get into, or next month we will get into the long and we're not gonna watch just the classics. I got a couple gems and
I want some more deep.
I don't know.
We watched a lot of.
I don't know if 2000 Nitro is really a gem, but it's different.
All right. Interesting.
Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.